Hey everybody, Mike Guglielmi, Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast, hanging out here with Nick. Nick, how you doing tonight?
Mike, I made the switch for tonight's episode from the dark liquor to the light. Going vodka tonight. That's how I'm feeling tonight, my friend. Ready to talk soccer, though. Absolutely. How you doing?
Heck yeah, I'm starting with coffee. I'll go to the scotch for the live stream reaction. Coming up right after this one at 8:30, Seattle Sounders, Minnesota United. We will be live. Watch along for that one. So lots of stuff to talk about tonight. Let's
absolutely, brother.
How's Twitter and Facebook popping off?
They have, as always, Mike, a lot of hot takes on a lot of different topics. But for us tonight, we are going to recap the playoffs so far. We're going to give our look ahead, our predictions on the MLS Cup Final. I think if we have enough time, we've been known to go long sometimes, a little long-winded here. We will preview the USMNT game against El Salvador, the friendly coming up on Wednesday. But a couple other housekeeping matters to get out of the way, everyone. You can find us on YouTube at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, on Twitter at SOPSoccer, on Facebook at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, and on just about every podcasting platform out there. So if you can't find us on anywhere on social media, then the problem's on your end and not ours. Definitely look for us on iTunes, Google, Spotify, Amazon. We're there everywhere. And of course, like and subscribe here on YouTube for all the latest content for Mike's betting picks and predictions, as well as all of our regular episodes and watch-alongs. Speaking of the watch-alongs, tonight, Seattle, Minnesota. Wednesday, USMNT El Salvador. And Saturday, of course, MLS Cup. And if anyone out there loves what we're doing, if you like our content, if you like our picks, maybe Mike made you a few dollars here and there, you can donate a little something back to the show. You can purchase our swag on Redbubble. You can donate on Patreon. And we are on the CashApp. Referral code up top. So, Mike, I know that's your baby. You're loving that CashApp. So
it is
CashApp. A little bit about that, and we got some special guests tonight, I hear, as well.
We do. CashApp is fantastic, and the support we've received so far has been absolutely amazing. So thank you to everybody who has donated to continuing the growth of soccer here in the United States of America. And make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and get in on our $250 Visa gift card challenge. It's just that simple. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and get in on that. Now, we do have special guests on. I had a great conversation with a gentleman this afternoon, and you guys go check out Insight Betting. So that's INSIGHT. Insight Betting has the most fire picks around. These guys, they just don't miss. Like, they don't mess around, man. Their picks are unbelievable. I went through the stuff they sent me from the football games. They do a lot of football and basketball. Was absolutely spot on. So go check them out. They're on Instagram, Insight_betting on Instagram. Send them a message and tell them that Sons of a Pitch Soccer sent you, and they'll give you a 2-day free trial. So Insight Betting, thanks for joining us, and good luck to those guys in growing their business as well. So everybody who's on here, go check them out. We'll also give them a little shout during the live stream reaction later on. But Insight_betting on Instagram for all your betting needs.
Take it from one who knows, guys. Take it from Mike, that's for sure. Yeah. Now, Mike, it's not exactly betting, but we did have a bracket challenge to see if you can pick the best MLS brackets, and you've been keeping up to date on that. Tell us, how are we looking so far? Has anyone picked the perfect bracket yet?
No perfect brackets. And this is like the NCAA, man. It's damn near impossible, especially with all the upsets we've had going on. But here are our current standings through yesterday's game. So heading into tonight, T-Mac 803210 is in the lead right now, 150 points. T-Mac almost has this entire challenge in the bag. He's one game away from doing that, and that is this. Well, actually, the Sounders, I believe if the Sounders win tonight, T-Mac will wrap it up, but it's going to be close. Lex upsets in second place at 110. They're done. Tigres for life. Jorge is right there. If I believe he has Columbus. When I was looking at his bracket, he has Columbus to win the whole thing. So if Columbus wins, he might be able to overtake T-Mac if the Sounders lose tonight, or how many points they give out for the champion. I'm not sure. But it's pretty much a 2-3 team race here between T-Mac, Tigres for life, and BGS. Brenda at 100 points. those are the three in contention there. I'm technically in third place with 105 points, but I'm done. I had Columbus in MLS Cup Final, but that is it. Or no, I didn't have Columbus in MLS Cup Final. Maybe I did. Did I? I can't remember. But I'm done where I'm at for my points. So I'm staying there, and I think you've got Seattle, so you've got a chance. You could jump up there, Nick.
Move up.
Place.
Sitting in a respectable 6th place in our pool, but just like the guys at Insight Betting will tell you, it's the upsets that make you the money, and just like in the bracket challenge, it's the upsets that will propel you to the top of that. So it looks like T-Mac picked New England probably to win a couple games at least, and that kind of propelled him, maybe Minnesota and Dallas as well. So that, I think, wraps up kind of the housekeeping and the initial stuff. Mike, you ready to move into some MLS soccer talk?
Absolutely. Let's get on with it.
Excellent. And I put on the top note, the first topic, a little something for you, just to get you going tonight. The league announced their Landon Donovan MVP award, and it is, at least for the next year, the MV Pozuelo award. Mike, your guy from Toronto takes it home. And what are your thoughts on that? And did you get a chance to look at the numbers from the voters? Like, it wasn't even close.
No, I didn't. I actually didn't look at the numbers for the voters, but yes, he was the MVP in MLS this season. There was no one close to him. When you take in the entire body of work, if you're talking just goals, no. If you're talking just assists, then yeah, because he led in the assists. But overall, he was definitely the most valuable player, especially when you saw the way TFC, Bradley, even though captain, Tam down a little bit. He's not a DP anymore, but still he was out a lot. Then you get Josie Altidore, who didn't show up. We've talked a lot about
quite literally some games didn't show up.
Literally. So he was the most important player for TFC. They were the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference for one reason and one reason alone. And that was Alejandro Pozuelo and his play. So no doubt. I mean, Diego Rossi, I'm looking at the numbers here from the notes, coming in second. But, yeah, overall 35% of the vote total to Pozuelo, 17.8% for Rossi. Ladero, see, I might put Ladero ahead of Rossi just because of how important he is to the team. But, again, it's not just that matters, right? There's more than that. So, but overall, he probably had Jordan Morris took away some of his votes. If Morris wasn't on this list, he probably would have been in second place. So, well deserved for Alejandro Pozuelo.
No doubt about it. And I think Don Garber said it best that he's the most complete player this season. And you said it. I think he had something around like 10 goals and 9 assists this year. And on top of all of that, if you want to get into the advanced metrics, if you like those kind of things, I think he had some like the most goal scoring created chances, like one of those advanced metrics that shows his involvement in play and involvement in creating goal scoring opportunities. Like he was far and away leading the league in that. And then what else stood out to me though, Mike, looking at the voting here, Andre Blake, 5th place, a goalkeeper came in 5th place for MVP voting.
Well, he was goalkeeper of the year. He was goalkeeper of the year, and yeah, it was important. And Ryan,
defender of the year on here. You don't have
going off in the comments about Pozuelo and all as well. Tactical Manager TV, thanks for coming on and hanging with us here. If Seattle does not hold Reynoso, they will struggle. Agreed. Reynoso's been on fire. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. But thanks for coming on with us. We'll be sure to jump into your live if you're going live tonight for the game like we are. But yeah, I mean, Andre Blake was that good. I mean, he definitely helped that team succeed this season. So I can see why he was added into the list. But Ryan Anderson going off over here. He says Pozo is going to repeat, and I think he could. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the season. I can't remember who I picked for my MVP in the beginning of the season in those picks. But, I remember discussing it and being like, well, I can't wait to see what Pozuelo does with a full offseason. This guy's going to tear the league up and could win MVP. And that's what he did. I mean, he, and next year will be even better if he has a good supporting cast around him, like AKA get rid of Josie Altidore and sign a good striker to put up there with Akinola that can play with Akinola. If you've got those two guys, because Akinola can play by himself too. So if you've got those two guys up front with Pozuelo feeding him the ball, dude, look out. He could repeat for sure.
Real quick here, Mike, your preseason pick for MVP, Petey Martinez, Atlanta.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that worked out well. Yeah,
right for everybody. I had picked Maxi Morales, and had he had a full season, maybe. I don't feel as bad I don't feel as bad about my pick as you probably do about yours.
But I remember, go back and watch that TFC preview episode with Dwayne Rollins over there from Soccer Today, and we talked about Pozuelo and how good he'll be with a full off season. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah, so get him on your fantasy roster for next season. And I don't know, does Insight Betting do fantasy roster as well?
I don't believe so. Looks like it's just straight up betting. So
okay,
lots of spreads, over-unders, all that good stuff.
Maybe Pozuelo will get you a few of those parlays or prop bets or something like that along the way.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, let's move into our playoff recap. We got 3 games since our last podcast recording, since our last show that we need to cover, and 3 games I'm sure everyone here has watched highlights and replays and everything about it. And first off, you had Seattle defeating Dallas 1-0. Great match. Kansas City lays an absolute egg, loses 3-0 to Minnesota. Not to take away from the Loons, but we know Kansas City was the one that laid the egg in that one. And then the last game, Columbus defeating the New England Revolution 1-0 to advance to the MLS Cup Final. So those are the 3 games there, Mike. Looking at Seattle versus Dallas, I guess sometimes all you need is one. And Seattle found it in the 49th minute. I think it was off a Shane O'Neill header on a corner. For those of you who are casual MLS fans, Shane O'Neill's not a name you're going to recognize unless you've watched the league for a while, and I was definitely doing some Google searching of him that evening. He took advantage of a set piece, got a header on it, and put it in the back of the net. And when you control the game like Seattle did, but can't find that finishing touch, you got to rely on a set piece, and they sure did. Meanwhile, Dallas played a good game, but could not take advantage of Seattle not scoring. So as much as I want to praise Seattle, I think they got the one shot that they needed on this one, Mike.
Yeah, they finished the one chance. Dallas couldn't get past Stephen Fry, who is just a beast outside of beasts in the playoffs. Damn good goaltender all year long, no doubt about that. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but dude shows up in playoff time, man. Mm-hmm. He is. If we base the entire season off the playoffs, Stephen Fry would have been goalkeeper of the year the last 5 seasons. But overall, Dallas with a good game, just couldn't get that finish, couldn't take down the reigning champions in their house, which is a tough task. And the team that's going to try and do that is Minnesota, just knocking the crap out of Sporting Kansas City in that game. We were here on live stream reaction, watch along, and man, that was ugly after about 15 minutes of Sporting Kansas City dominating. From 16th minute through 90th, it was all Minnesota United, and it wasn't even close. A very, very disappointing turn of events for Sporting Kansas City, who, as a number 1 seed in the Western Conference, you're thinking, okay, well, maybe this is the year, right? I mean, and then Melia in the penalty kicks against San Jose, standing on his head, saving 3 out of 3. You're thinking, okay, maybe this is it. And unfortunately, they did lose. They did lose Alan Polito right before that game to COVID, I believe it was. So, that hurts when you lose your number 1 striker. But I don't think it would have made a difference if they played it out the way they did. I mean, they just got walked off the field by Minnesota. 3-0.
And that's the funny thing is you look at how good Melia has been historically and in the recent playoff run. Those goals that Minnesota scored, he had no chance. They were coming from inside 10 yards. And I think one of them was even on a free header off a set piece or something like that. So he had no chance, as good as he has been, to kind of bail his team out on that one. And Minnesota, maybe their best offensive half all season, and Kansas City, their worst game of the season, no doubt. And Peter Vermees, he didn't know what to do with himself. He used 4 subs between the 56th and the 78th minute and still couldn't get any sort of offense going. It was an absolute mess of a night for Kansas City on the offensive end. And the more they pushed, the more they went for it, the more Minnesota was able to exploit them, either goals in the first half or with possession and other opportunities in the second half. So as a quick recap, you had Kevin Molino in the 27th and the 35th, and then Bakai Debasi in the 39th minute. And when they went up 3-0, there was really not much Kansas City could do to come back from that. So it leads us to the next question now, Mike. Like we tend to talk about the teams who get knocked out because we know we got more talk about the teams who are still in the tournament to come.
Right.
What's Vermees and Kansas City's situation? Oh, there's always been speculation that he's going to either get fired or removed from his role as a head coach. He's still the technical director or the sporting director, whatever title they gave him. Right. But is he going to move on from being a head coach, especially after this playoff bow out? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't see him, that team is Peter Vermees, and they've been consistently good. Minus last year with the injuries and CONCACAF Champions League run and that kind of stuff. This team has been consistently good. It is the perfect opportunity for ownership, though, to say, hey, we need somebody to take them over the top, right? I mean, you saw that. I've seen it in other sports a lot, not so much in soccer or in MLS, maybe in European soccer. But, like, I always think about I follow Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? And Tony Dungy took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from absolute trash, the creamsicle jerseys, garbage, 0-16. I don't think they finished 0-16, but like 1-15,
0-14.
It was horrible.
They expanded, yeah.
And then they switched jerseys. They started to get a little bit better. They turned into a playoff team. They were consistently in the playoffs, and then they just couldn't get over the hump. They lost in the NFC Championship a year. They lost in the divisionals a couple times. And then, boom, Tony Dungy's fired. They bring in John Gruden. Go out and win the Super Bowl the next year, right? They got that coach that would put them over the top. He didn't build the team. He didn't put it all together, but he just got them over the top. That's the perfect scenario that I see with Sporting Kansas City right now. He took that team now to being really good and right there. Now, do they bring somebody in like a Greg Vanney or – any of the other, like a Patrick Vieira or one of these guys that's on the market right now,
sure,
and they just put them right over the top. That's kind of my feeling with that. I think ownership should do that. Vermees won't. I don't think he'll step down or anything like that, but it could be time to go. I don't think it's going to happen. I just have a feeling it's not, but it could be time.
And I love your analogy of the Bucks because we all know how good a coach Tony Dungy was, and then he goes on and wins the Super Bowl with the Colts. Like, Vermees is an excellent coach, and he has gotten the most out of this roster. I mean, let's take a look at it, right? They're designated players: Felipe Gutierrez, who's 30 years old, Alan Pulido, who's 29, who had an off year this year, and Johnny Russell, who's 30 years old, who talking with Morel in the last episode over in Scotland, like. He said Johnny Russell's a nobody in Scotland. I'm glad he's getting some press in the MLS. So you look at their DPs who underperformed when it came playoff time. And then you take a look at their defenders where you've got a few aging guys in the back line there with Graham Zusi and Matt Biesler, right?
Right.
And by the way, their backup goalkeeper is Richard Sanchez. So all you Chicago Fire people know that they've got to get some depth in goal here. This could be a great time, especially then they sell Gianluca Busio. Maybe there's speculation he's getting interest overseas. You sell Busio, Zusi and Biesler either don't come back. I forget what their contract deals are. They only have maybe a year or so left at most. You get a couple new DPs. Like, you could flip the roster. It might be the perfect time for Vermees to step down and just focus on everything as technical director. And I want to use that and go back to Dallas real quick, unless you've got any other comments on Kansas City.
The only thing I want to add is, as Ryan says, I mean, I'd take Vermees in Toronto if he left KC. Agreed. I would too. He's a damn good coach. And brother BKL Contreras has joined us. What's up, brother? How's it going? We'll be talking about that Crew Eastern Conference Finals win in just a little bit.
But yeah, talking Kansas City, like, their DPs might not be long for that roster. Look at Dallas. Dallas had a pretty good season, and I think they outperformed playoff expectations by beating Portland in the first round. Probably throwing everyone's bracket off like mine. But if you look at Dallas, if they're going to get better, you got to look at the DPs, right? We talk about this. Offense, designated players, that's what the league wants to see. Those are your goal scorers. That's the biggest chunk of your salary cap. Obviously, everything after the max doesn't get accounted for it. That's why they're DPs. That's the rules. Right. But that's what you're paying for from a practical standpoint. You are paying these guys to score goals and win you games. Who are Dallas's DPs here, Mike? Brian Acosta, Franco Jara, and Santiago Mosquera. Not lighting the world on fire / burn, Dallas burn. I was trying to work in an old pun there. It didn't quite work out for me. But those are their 3 DPs. Meanwhile, you have some really good bright spots in their young academy guys. They've made some money off of some sales recently. Reggie Cannon, and I'm forgetting who the most recent sale, I think it was a young defender that they just shipped overseas. So they've got some money saved up. And then you've got Tessman, who's outperformed expectations, Hollingshed, who had a great year, and even their goalkeeper, Maurer. He came up with some really good games and really good saves. So if Dallas can improve their DPs, and maybe they get rid of Michael Barrios, and he's an aging international player, they can free up a roster spot there, use their youth, use their depth in their academy system, and then just bring in some DPs who can, score 8 to 12 goals a season each. Dude, Dallas could be a top Western Conference team that year. I know if it were that easy, every team would do it, but Dallas doesn't seem that far away, and that's something I wanted to point out between them and Kansas City. Like, what might be holding them back is just the star power, the sheer talent. Because look at Toronto, man, like we said it. You got Pozuelo, Piatti, and if Altidor's there, like, those are 3 top-tier DPs, right? And as terrible as everyone else has been, Pozuelo, league MVP, takes TFC to where they were this season. So it could work for Dallas. It could work for Kansas City. And that's all I got to say about that, to quote Forrest Gump. And thanks for brother BKL for agreeing with me on that one, man. I appreciate the support there. So that's what I kind of wanted to talk about, those first 2 games there, Mike. So feel free, add what you got, or if you want to move on to Columbus, New England.
Yeah, with Dallas, I mean they've got talent with Franco Jara. He's good. He did come in this season from Mexico, and has taken some time to adjust to the league. So I wouldn't quite show him the door yet. Maybe if this was a normal season, I would, but he might be able to buy a little bit of time into next year. But yeah, get rid of Mosquera. I think they finally sold him or something. But Brian Acosta, got to go spend some money and get some good players for those DP spots. So let's talk a little bit about Columbus Crew, New England Revolution, Eastern Conference Final yesterday at 2:00 on ABC. What a game. It was a very good, entertaining game for those 2 teams. I was not expecting the game to be as good as it was yesterday. And Columbus gets it done. They get the victory 1-0 over New England. Matt Turner did all he could to keep the Revs, in that game and put them into the final, but he couldn't do it. One nice goal by Lucas Zelarayan, and there you go. Columbus is going to be hosting MLS Cup, the last game at MAPFRE Stadium. MLS Cup Final against either Seattle or Minnesota. It should be very interesting, to say the least. But overall, New England, their Cinderella run is over. Them getting past Philadelphia and then Orlando City, more so Orlando City, but Philadelphia, was a much better team than New England. They're done. They pack up. It sounds like there's some optimism around that organization from the messages that ownership has sent out, the messages that the fans are saying. It sounds like it's a good time to be a Revs fan for the first time in a long time, to say the least. But I mean, this is it. Columbus is in.
Yeah, it was great to see 2 original clubs match up. And like you said, the Revs haven't had much success for a while. So for them to be there and be exciting and then play toe-to-toe with Columbus, that entire game was phenomenal. Real quick about Columbus, though, it was Zelarayan and Artur. Those 2 guys stood out. They stood out with the eye test. They stood out on the stat sheet. I think Zelarayan had 8 shot creating actions. He was pressing as much as he was getting involved in offense. Artur, obviously the goal that was scored, that's what separated the 2 teams, but he had tons of offensive movement. I think he had some of the most yards progressed. If you want to go to fbref.com or whoscored.com and look at these advanced metrics here, he had progressed the ball forward more than anyone on Columbus. He had the most offensive dribbles, and he was also pressing too. That really disrupted New England's flow. But to talk about New England a little bit, great season for them. And for a play-in team to get to the conference finals, excellent run, excellent playoff run. I don't know how Bruce Arena keeps doing it. I thought this guy's career was dead and buried the first time the USMNT fired him, if not the second time the US fired him. But he keeps winning games. So he must be doing something great in the locker room or on the pitch, or just knows how to get the most out of his players, that's for sure. Because he's not very vocal on the sidelines, as far as when the cameras are on him, at least. But where does New England go from here, Mike? I think their goalkeeping is set in Turner. I don't think he's young enough to make a move overseas. He's probably going to stay in New England for a while. You look at their DPs, Gustavo Bu, Carlos Hill, and Buxa. I think Buxa's probably the one who's going to get scrutinized the most as a striker, not scoring enough goals. They should try to move him, in my opinion, and bring in a better DP and get some more offense. Defensively, they gave up either average to an above average amount of goals allowed. So if you can get rid of Buxa and maybe move a couple guys around in this roster for some offense, that would be great. Then again, I don't know if Bruce Arena knows how to manage offense, but what's your take on the Revolution going forward?
Man, the Revs going forward, I don't know where they go other than moving Buxa for trying to improve in that position, or maybe just get some more depth up front, because Bo and Gil are tearing it up in the midfield. So those are both DP spots. You got to center your build around those two guys because they are that team. So I think Buxa, maybe they move on from him and, maybe spend some real money, make a star type signing, not a guy like Bo or Carlos Hill, who we all know are very good. I'm not saying they're not big names. They're not big time strikers, right? But you bring somebody in from Europe that's a top striker like Mario Balotelli. No, I'm just kidding. Not Balotelli, but like somebody that is like a really good young striker from Europe and throw 10, 12, 15 million at him, right? You're that close, especially if you can move those depth pieces around at the back and solidify that defense with a damn good goalie. That's what I would do if I was GM, but I don't know.
Right. You got to get Kraft to loosen the pocketbook a little bit, to open up his bank accounts.
Right.
I think that a lot of fans, as optimistic as they are, still know who the owner is and still know he might not be treating the Revolution as well as some of his other teams that he owns. Hey, but the way the Patriots are going this year, it might be the perfect time for him to start investing in MLS.
Yeah, maybe. But again, with the Patriots, though, I mean, they weren't those star player type teams. A lot of their guys, I mean, their wide receivers and whatnot, they were just, average guys. It wasn't. I mean, they brought in some of the guys that had some issues, like Antonio Brown for one game, and things like that. But
you can't.
I don't know. We'll see what they do. But hey, we got Daniel Young has joined the podcast there, Sky Blue Citizens Podcast. He's talking about Tottenham winning the league and the Europa Cup.
Forget the Spurs, man. Forget the Spurs. As bad as my Everton team has been, at least we beat Tottenham to open the season.
Hey, there you go. And then Ryan Anderson says, so Toronto fan, do we root for Columbus Crew in the Cup, considering they're a low-rent Toronto Central, basically, or Seattle Mini just because? I don't know. I will probably root for the Crew or Minnesota just because Seattle have hurt me too many times. So I don't think I can root for them. But Minnesota, probably if they get past them, that's kind of what I'm doing just because of the Loons, man. We've had a lot of Loons fans, following our show, and I got a soft spot for the Loons. But yeah, I as a Toronto fan, anybody but Seattle.
I think that's good logic, Mike. I don't know if I would 100% agree. I have to think more if Columbus is a low rent Toronto. I know there's some similarities there, but anyway, I pull for Columbus. I think as a kid when the MLS opened up, for me, the Crew was the closest team geographically back in '96 before Chicago joined the league. There was really nothing. It was like Columbus and Kansas City. Those were your two teams if you wanted to go local. Which is probably why now I'm more of a fan of the league than any one particular team. So right. I'm pulling for the Crew. I got their jersey sitting in my drawer, and I think that they'll be my team from here on out. And maybe that's just my Eastern Conference bias, from being from Chicago and in just about every professional league we're Eastern Conference minus hockey. But that's it. I'm gonna pull for the Crew. I want to see Zardes win a cup just to shut up a lot of the Zardes haters. I think that would be phenomenal. He's terrible. He's the worst. We can never watch him ever play again. He just won MLS Cup. I hope he scores the winning goal in MLS Cup.
There you go. Janstep jumps on. He says Sounders FC with the muscles there.
All right.
So thanks for jumping on, Janstep. Yeah, I will probably root for the Crew that just to finish out Mapfre Stadium that way. Awesome. And Tim Bez, man. I mean, that guy, how about that, right? You go, you turn Toronto into a super club, basically, and then you move on to Columbus and take the Crew to MLS Cup Final. Pretty good. I miss Bez a lot because I think Ali Curtis sucks as a GM. I think he sucks as a leader, and everything that I've seen from him so far has been garbage. So I don't have high hopes for this offseason. I'd love to have Tim Bez back. That's just me.
Well, there we go. I think that puts a nice little bow on that one. So looking at the MLS Cup Final, we've got Columbus coming out of the East. We've got Seattle versus Minnesota. I mean, Mike, who do you think is going to win that Seattle-Minnesota game, and then who do you think is going to take the MLS Cup?
Yeah, so, I mean, who do I think is going to win Seattle? On my picks and predictions show, I said Seattle. I still think Seattle wins it. They're just too good of a team. They're firing on all cylinders right now with their DP players. They're at home against Minnesota. I think they take it. Does that mean I'm really confident in that pick? Absolutely not. I think Minnesota, if they play the way they did against Sporting Kansas City last week, they will beat Seattle. Chances of them coming out and playing that great again are not that good. So that's why I kind of roll with Seattle. I think they'll be good. I think they'll make it a competitive game, but I think Seattle gets through. That's my pick there.
I'm with you. I think Seattle wins the cup. I'm going to stick with my original pick. I think I picked them from preseason to win the MLS Cup. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to keep riding it out. I got the Sounders to beat Minnesota and then beat Columbus in the final. So with that, we've reached the halfway point of our episode, maybe a little more than halfway. We're going to cut a little short so we can make sure to give everyone time to refill their drinks and empty their bladders before the MLS playoff game here between Seattle and Minnesota. But Mike, why don't you remind everyone what we're doing after this game for the live, and then a little bit about our friends over at Insight Betting.
Yeah, so we've got the Seattle Minnesota United live stream reaction watch along right after this one. 8:30. We'll probably finish this episode, I'd say maybe around like 8:15ish, so we can so I can put in the lineups and all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be live for this one. Come hang out with us, talk the game. Let's have some fun. We always have a good time with these live stream reactions. So that as well. Go check out if you're a sports bettor like me and you follow along and you do some betting. Go check out Insight Betting on Instagram. It's Insight INSIGHT_betting on Instagram. These guys do awesome work. Those picks are unbelievable. They've got great records. I mean, 14-4 last week on their football spreads, college and NFL. That's pretty damn good. A lot better than I do on my picks and predictions. So go check them out and tell them that we sent you. They'll get you a 2-day free trial. Send you over some free picks there for the game. So appreciate those guys for reaching out to us, and make sure you guys what's the word? I don't even know. Reciprocate. There it is. Reciprocate the love for Sons of the Pitch Soccer over to Insight Betting, and go tell them we sent you over there. Now let's talk a little bit here after this little halftime break. We want to talk some USMNT.
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't want to talk USMNT, Mike? Red, white, blue, baby.
We will be live for USMNT versus El Salvador. Another live stream reaction watch along. Or not tomorrow. It's Wednesday, right? Wednesday night.
Wednesday the night.
And so come join the party there for that. USA El Salvador. Lots of MLS guys in this camp. It's going to be a fun one. We'll be watching that one and talking about it. So I don't know if Nick might be on a little bit late that night, but I'll get us started and ride through till Nick can get there. But yeah, this camp. I mean, what stands out to you, Nick? Who are the players to watch? What are your thoughts on this camp?
For sure. What's funny is I looked up the roster on US Soccer's website. Like half these guys don't even have profile pictures up yet. Like it's their first call up. It's their first time they're getting on the senior team's radar here. It's pretty funny. But what's great is it's very young, very MLS based roster. So let me run through the positions quickly. I'll kind of let you know what stands out to me. So from the back, the goalkeepers, you got CJ dos Santos, who's playing over at Benfica in Portugal. Bill Hamid, DC United. JT Marcinkowski, San Jose Quakes goalkeeper. So those are your three. I expect that Hamid will get the start, and then maybe Marcinkowski or Santos comes in the second half, using a halftime sub just to get these guys a little extra playing time. Additionally, in the back line, the defenders, Julian Araujo of the Galaxy, Kyle Duncan of the Red Bulls, Marco Farfan of the Timbers, Aaron Long of the Red Bulls, Mark McKenzie of the Union, maybe soon to be Celtic, but currently of the Union, Mauricio Pineda of the Fire. Wow, first time in a while someone other than Jordi Mihailovic gets called up from Chicago. Sam Vines of the Rapids, who's quickly becoming kind of a fan favorite to get a call up. Now he's got it. Is he going to prove himself? And then, of course, Walker Zimmerman of Nashville, Defender of the Year. So I expect to see Zimmerman getting the start from center back there and seeing how he can act as a captain and really solidify this back line and get some of these young, inexperienced guys some just that experience, right? And how they're going to work together when it comes to real game time and qualifying time. Mike, goalkeepers and defenders. Anything stand out to you? Anything you would like to see out of your defensive shape from the USMNT as they go take on El Salvador?
Yeah, so it's a strong roster of U.S. players, of U.S.-based players. Sorry for the little craziness going on upstairs. I'm going to go to bed and mom's throwing down up there. But overall, I really like to see. I really want to see this CJ dos Santos.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know I don't know much about him. I've heard a little bit about him, but Benfica, I want to see. Bill Hamid, I already know what I'm getting out of him, right? He's never going to crack the lineup. I don't really care. Bill Hamid's a good MLS goalkeeper. That's at best, and move on from him. So I'd like to see CJ dos Santos, JT Marcinkowski. I don't know. I don't think he's going to really crack anything either. Julian Araujo, I really want to see him. Marco Farfan, get him in.
Oh, yeah.
Mark McKenzie, Sam Vines, Walker Zimmerman, Mauricio Pineda. I think it's just kind of a let's get these guys in. Let's throw them into the fire, see what they can do. And, that's kind of it. I mean, none of these guys are really going to push for a spot right now, maybe in a year or two, other than Aaron Long. I think Aaron Long is probably maybe Mark McKenzie, but I doubt it. He's still a little bit off. But, yeah, I mean, that's those are my thoughts on those two. But
I'm with you, Mike. I think Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman are the only two that have a realistic shot at starting whenever a real game comes up. And even then, it's probably not going to be the case when you bring in the European-based players. But now looking on the other side, midfielders and forwards, Brendan Aronson, Philly, Kellen Acosta, Rapids, Cole Bassett, Rapids, Sebastian Legit, Galaxy, Andres Perea, Orlando City, Jackson Ewell, San Jose. So the one name that stands out here is Sebastian Legit. We've gone back and forth. I think his time playing in meaningful games for the U.S. is over, but his composure here, and we saw this with Berhalter, keeping Will Trapp around, keeping Jesse Zardes around when people were calling for other names to take their roster spots, to help acclimate these younger players and see how they can play with a veteran and play in the system. So I expect that to be Legit's role, not one of these weird number 9 type of main goal scoring options, but how can he get the other guys involved in it? That's what I expect from him. Now your forwards, this is intriguing because you've got Ayo Akinola, who's a dual national, Efren Alvarez, who's a dual national, Daryl Dike, young and up and coming player, Chris Mueller, who's people have been asking for him to get call ups for a long time, and Sebastian Soto, who's over at Telstar. Like, along with Paul Arriola, who's a given product. We know him. He'll probably play out on the wings. I think they're just trying to get his legs back after he came back from ACL surgery. And Jordi Mihailovic, of course. So this could be a mixed bag. I mean, maybe you get Arriola to come in and play 20 minutes here or there. But I do want to see Akinola and DK play together. I think that would be phenomenal, especially against an El Salvador team who's getting ready for World Cup qualifying. They could make the last two teams into the octagonal, the octo, the ocho, whatever we're calling it now that we got 8. Whereas the U.S. is straight through just based on their rankings and their CONCACAF, what are we calling it? Not the CONCACAF Champions League, but the Nations League. That's it.
Yeah, Nations League, right.
So the U.S. is already through. They're not worried about this game. We've got an El Salvador team who could really use a good tune-up. So it'll be interesting to see. For those of you on the El Salvador side of things, you'll recognize Darren Sarin, a midfielder from Houston who has been in the MLS for the last 5 years. So one guy to look out over there. They have a lot of guys playing all over Central and South America. So a good, experienced team who's going to come out and try to win this game, Mike. Any final thoughts? Anything you'd expect from the U.S.? As long as they play smart and play within Berhalter's system and nobody gets hurt, I'm okay with it. I'd like them to win too.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see them win the game. I think it will be closer than any USA El Salvador match we've seen in a long time, just because of the young kids being in here. But overall, I want to see Akinola just as a TFC guy. I want to see him do well for USA and get locked down. It's not going to happen. This isn't going to cap tie him, But I'd like to see him possibly sign with USMNT going forward. Let's just see some of these young guys we don't know much about, and see them in a USA shirt and see how they respond to the challenge.
Like David Barliak says, it's a CONCACAF game. They're getting CONCACAF experience, which you need come qualifying time.
Exactly. That it will be in Fort Lauderdale, it won't be in Central America, but the CONCACAF experience of the guys laying down like they are drowning in the grass, and the things of that nature, just all the CONCACAFing that goes on and the referees and all that kind of stuff. It's always good experience. So for me, I'd like to see, obviously, want to see the U.S. win. I think they'll do that. And I'm excited to see some of these young guys, like especially DK and Akinola up top and, at the back. Let's see how Araujo do. Araujo or Araujo?
Araujo.
I want to see him do well and say maybe Marco Farfan. I believe he's dual national as well. I think Mexico's on his tail a little bit. So, So brother BKL Contreras comes in and says, when I look at the El Salvador game play, but they're good, but they got most impressive offensives, and they have one striker who strike them back.
And they can do it on offense. I don't think goal scoring is going to be a problem for El Salvador. So thank you, brother BKL. Appreciate the scouting report. Our El Salvadorian here. Hopefully that's how you say it.
Yeah. So with that, man, let's see what happens. It'll be fun to watch. It's a USA game. We love doing those lives.
Oh yeah.
So I'll be here for that. We're going to get ready for the Minnesota United visiting Seattle Sounders here in about 15 minutes, and we'll be back with that. Nick, anything to close us out?
Just wanted to say thanks for everyone who's watching. Thanks to everyone who's listening. Thank you to Insight Betting for reaching out to us. Go check them out on Instagram, insight_betting, for all your sports picks, MLS and otherwise. Find us, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, every podcasting platform. Subscribe, like, click, everything. It all goes a long way to help us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Nick. Talk to you guys real soon.